News this morning. Here's a New York Times headline. Oh, oops, that's not the New York Times headline. That's a nice meme I made that I was pretty proud of. I made that on my phone, too. I didn't even use a computer. That's why the Photoshop is a little basic. But votes.
Look, what I am finding from some of the submissions we've gotten is we have a lot of talented people who watch the show. So I'm trying to. I have solicited a lot of help for my Star Wars video. Hopefully, we'll start to have people who can do this stuff and help us out.
I mean, this would have looked better if I did it on my computer, but I was impatient. My ADD
I mean,
was like, no, got to do it now.
It's a funny meme.
Yeah.
It's a funny meme.
It's funny because it's true, this meme. It's true.
Yes.
Harris clinches majority of delegates as she closes in on nomination. On her first full day in the race, Kamala Harris drew endorsements from her final possible rivals, hauled in record sums of cash, and attacked Donald Trump. Vice President Kamala Harris moved swiftly to assert herself as the de facto Democratic nominee for president on Monday. She leaned in. And she knew her value, and she asserted her worth. Girls get it done. That's right. Girls get it done. One day, clinched the nomination. Her first full day as a candidate, as virtually every potential remaining rival bowed out, and she clinched the support of enough delegates to win the nomination. So this is not just, Whitmer endorsed her, Newsom is not running, so it looks like her. No, she actually has the support of enough delegates to have effectively clinched the nomination as of last night. The Associated Press said late Monday that Ms. Harris had secured the backing of more than the 1,976 delegates needed to capture the nomination in the first round of voting. The pledged support is not binding until the delegates cast their votes, which party officials said would take place between August 1st and August 7th. When I announced my campaign for president, I said I intended to go out and earn this nomination, Ms. Harris said in a statement. A few hours later, I'm proud to say I did it. Yes. Done. I said I was going to earn it, and they all came to me, and boom, signed, sealed, delivered. Tonight, I am proud to have secured the broad support needed to become our party's nominee. She added, I look forward to formally accepting the nomination soon. Now, paragraph 2. The vote will take place between August 1st and August 7th. As you can see here, the Democratic Party lays out rules to virtually choose presidential nominee to replace Biden. So this came out before Harris clinched the nomination, but they signaled no open convention either way. Why? Because they were greasing the skids for Kamala since they knew she would have the support and they want to get this done quickly so they get all the signage and the logos and everything made up. And hopefully she will pick a vice presidential nominee before the convention as well. That is one more major reason why they wanted to sew this up early, which they did. Democratic leaders on Monday laid out a new process for selecting a presidential nominee to replace Biden through a virtual process that would conclude by August 7th, well before the party's nominating convention in Chicago next month. Working with the Convention Rules Committee, the Democratic Party is prepared to shift the nominating portion of the convention to an electronic format to ensure that our Democratic nominees for president and vice president are certified before state ballot access deadlines. DNC Chair Jamie Harrison and Rules Committee Co-Chair Minion Moore wrote in a memo. Party officials said they have ruled out an in-person contested convention because of ballot access deadlines, potential Republican legal challenges, and the need to vet a vice presidential candidate. Of course, the ballot access deadline thing is not a real thing. The only state where that would have been a problem is Ohio, and they moved it to accommodate the convention. Republican legal challenges, that may or may not happen anyway, as we'll get to later in the show. And the need to vet a vice presidential candidate is the one that makes the most sense, but given Harris's overwhelming lead, she could have essentially done that anyway. They want to get this done early to get the marketing materials out, and they did not want a floor fight at the convention. They boxed Marianne Williamson out again because Marianne submitted herself for consideration. Rigged it again against Marianne. The virtual process will be open to any candidate who gets 300 signatures from elected convention delegates with no more than 50 from any single state. Candidates would also have to show that they are qualified for the job of president and are qualified members of the Democratic Party. Well, that's kind of a subjective rule, right? Maybe that rule was set aside for Marianne. Hey, you have to prove you're qualified for the job. Qualified according to who?
It's like I've always said, power crystals and bullshit will only take you so far.
Exactly, yes. As it stands, now this quote is obsolete, of course. No candidate has secured a majority of the delegates to the convention within hours of print. That became untrue. That's how fast everyone coalesced behind Kamala Harris. All right. Within hours, this was printed yesterday, and it was untrue by the evening. It was obsolete. The dates for that process will be announced on Wednesday when the Convention Rules Committee meets virtually. Voting by electronic ballot could be completed as soon as August 1st, officials said. If more than one candidate qualifies, which it looks like they won't, I mean, Kamala has clinched the majority of delegates, but if someone else gets to 300, where they technically qualify, then the voting can be completed as late as August 7th. A VP nominee may be selected before or after the August 7th date, depending on the desires of the presidential nominee. So, yes, this was a coronation. This was a coronation. This is exactly what we expected would happen. All of her potential rivals stood down, cleared the way, and after this primary process, this quote-unquote primary process played out, Democrats coalesced behind their replacement nominee in 1 day. 1 day. That is how long it took for the delegates to switch to Kamala, which is exactly why they structured this entire campaign this way, going back over a year. If Biden won enough delegates in the primary to control essentially who his successor would be, they could get this done very quickly if and when they had to, because the people who went to Kamala were Biden delegates. So his endorsement, he was basically kingmaker, and he picked Kamala. They went to Kamala, and that is it. This is now a done deal, all but technically a done deal. She is now the presumptive nominee. Man, 1 day, a 1 day long primary. That's a record. That's really a record.
Well, yeah, this is we're going full Venice here in the Venetian Republic. That was how it's done. It was a true oligarchy. You had an upper class that voted.
Right.
That's exactly what this was. Right. Yep. You just had this upper class, and frankly, it's just a more open version of what it's always been.
Yes.
Right. They picked Hillary 2 years before the primaries. There was never a primary going out there fighting for Bernie Sanders. They were never going to let you do that. It's always been run by this oligarchy. And that's where the irony is. You're going to talk about, oh, the Republicans are a threat to democracy. I would argue both parties don't like democracy, but the Democrats have really perfected the art of shutting it down within their own party. They just do not have democracy within the Democratic Party at all, which this is more honest to me. I think they should always do it this way.
Well,
why waste people's time? Just announce who you want, because that's who you're going to get anyway. Look at what they did here. They've been trying to make Kamala happen since 5 minutes after Hillary lost.
Don't be hateful. Don't be hateful. Remember, Mika says it's hate to say Kamala. Pretty soon it's going to be against the YouTube rules to say Kamala.
I thought it was Kamala. It's not Kamala.
No, it's Kamala.
Kamala?
That's because you're a hater. So it's Kamala. Yeah. Pretty soon it'll be against the rules on social media.
First pronouns now this.
Yeah, exactly.
Kamala?
We don't want them to retroactively strike
us.
Kamala.
Kamala. I'm going to have to practice that. Because I've been saying Kamala for years. I mean, not as a thing. I mean, yeah. It's incredible the ways these people find to be offended.
Well, our friend Nick Cruz was on Jimmy's show last night, and, Nick said, that's an Indian name. He says, I don't know how to say that name. He says, I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to pronounce your name either. I'm not hating.
Yeah. Exactly. But no, if they weren't busy finding ways to be offended, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
She is now what they're going to try to create this commercial package around, and you can see that happening where they're trying to do from Rosa Parks sat so Ruby Bridges could walk, so Kamala could run. That meme is everywhere now. And what you realize over time, what sweet summer children we were when we thought people made those memes. Those are operatives. Operatives make those memes, and then they plant them all over the place so all the Kool-Aid drinkers will spread them around. They're going to take cackling Kamala and try to make her into this Obama-esque figure. It's hard to say how successful they'll be because, as I've said, when Kamala is scripted, she can be effective. Like, she can deliver her lines like an actor. If you give her lines, she can deliver her lines. As soon as she doesn't have lines, she goes off into outer space. But now, assuming the people behind this are stupid is always a mistake. These people are not stupid. They wanted her for 8 years. She is a terrible political talent, almost as bad as Hillary Clinton, in some ways worse, you could argue. And look, they got her. They
maneuvered her to the
got
nomination
her.
without getting votes, without getting any votes.
Without getting votes, because she couldn't get votes. She had to drop out because she was running 5th in California. She was going to be completely humiliated. She had to drop out in 2020. That's what a piss poor candidate she is. She's such a bad candidate. She was unpopular in the black community that theoretically, in this very shallow way, they believe, well, you run a black person, black people are for them. They're not going to look at her record or anything. But, hey, man, you get, part of the story here is you got, I forget the name of the organization. I think it's in my coverage. It's a black women's professional organization. Those are the black people that she's going to appeal to. That's who they're going to go to. PMC. Black people. But in general, in that community, she was not popular. That's part of why she had to drop out. California aside, she was going to lose North Carolina, where she had all of her hopes pinned. So, but now,
South Carolina.
Yeah. So now you're seeing that they're really, really going to go full bore with this propaganda push. And hey, if we know Democrats, a lot of them are going to go along with it. A lot of people who 10 minutes ago were talking from that community, were talking rightly about her record as a prosecutor, are going to turn around and hold her up as the heir to Rosa Parks, because that is going to be a very relentless, you can see it now, it's going to be a very relentless propaganda message they're really going to be trying to drill into people's heads. This is the thing, though. She's not Obama. Obama was a great political talent. She is not. Can you actually sell this dog shit to people and tell them it's ice cream? Maybe, but I don't think beyond the base the Democrats already have. Like, yeah, with those people, they'll swallow anything. But can you extend that beyond that core? Can you extend it out to independents? I am deeply skeptical. I don't think so.
Well, you know, our friend Dan Richman, our friend and supporter, tweeted out something. The Motley Jew. He tweeted out, you know, the something to the effect of the pro-democracy party has not had a real primary in now 16 years. It has now been 16 years since the Democratic Party has actually had a legitimate primary. Think about that. Think about that. That says something.
If then, because they always had candidates who it didn't really matter.
No, but I'm saying they let that competition between Hillary and Obama play out. Like the underdog actually did win. Obama came into that race a huge underdog, and they actually let him beat her because he was not threatening to them.
But at the same time, that's what I'm saying.
But it was a real competition. They have not had a real competition in 16 years. Yeah.
But they allowed that competition because it didn't matter. It did, like, even then, it wasn't like if somebody like Bernie came along and were winning, they wouldn't have done the same thing. They would have done that then. It just didn't come up.
Right. Of course.
Please clap.